Have you struggled with the pointing out instructions, which are part of many non-duality teachings? If you did, it might be the case that you have a wrong starting assumption, which causes all your difficulties. In this video, I want to explore what this wrong assumption is, how we can address it, and how we can let it dissolve. Spiritual practices and teachings, which have a sort of non-duality framework, almost always include a pointing out instruction. In order to understand what this instruction is, of course we first have to understand the basic tenets of non-duality. In its very essence, what non-duality states is that there are not two parts to reality. There isn't this one side of reality where there is the observer and this other side of reality where there is the outside world. In reality, this distinction doesn't exist. What there is actually is a reality that is not made of two parts. And a non-duality pointing out instruction, therefore, is an instruction that is supposed to trigger the recognition of this ultimate reality. If you're interested in non-dual teachings, then of course you have encountered these sort of instructions many times before. They can vary tremendously. Some instructions can be very effective for some people and not so much for others. Then maybe at one point in your life, one instruction can be quite useful, but then at another point in your life, it might not be so useful at all. These instructions are very often verbal, but they don't necessarily need to be verbal, especially if you're in the direct presence of someone who is delivering this pointing out instruction to you. A lot of times, the instruction doesn't even need to take a verbal form. But in this video, I don't want to go too much into detail about what these instructions look like. In the future, however, I will talk more extensively about the specific pointing out instructions which were useful for me. What I want to delve deeper into here at this point is why many people struggle with these sort of non-dual pointing out instructions. My claim here is that there very often is one specific basic assumption that we have about ourselves, which can make it very hard to follow these sorts of instructions. When we first start out on any sort of spiritual path or practice, we usually start from the assumption that we are this body-mind, which then engages in a sort of practice. The motivations for doing so can differ, of course, but generally speaking, we either want to feel better or we want to discover a truth about ourselves. The implicit assumption for a person who goes on a spiritual path is that they only need to follow these instructions, these teachings they hear. They need to practice them for themselves, need to embody them, and then at some point, maybe if they get purified enough, or maybe if they have this incredible glimpse, they all of a sudden then will become something different. There's this wrong assumption that you as a person, if you follow the teachings, if you follow the instructions, will recognize reality, will recognize what you truly are. So the very basic wrong assumption at the start of this practice is that you as a person will one day become this ultimate reality, this non-dual reality, which is our own being. And this is the assumption we have to question. Let me use a powerful analogy here to make my point more clear and to suggest an alternative way of approaching non-duality instructions. Imagine in your room right now, there's a virtual reality headset. You as a person, whatever your name is, can now put on this headset. Once you put this headset on, you will see a world that is completely different from the world that you're actually in. You could, for example, be in a different country, be on top of a mountain, maybe even be on another planet. And furthermore, when within this virtual reality you look down at your body, you will see a different body. Maybe a body that is bigger or smaller than your actual body is. Maybe even a body that has a different gender. Let's say this virtual reality headset is so potent that it can create a completely believable virtual world. You will not just see this virtual world, but you will actually feel like you're in it. So it will not just include seeing, but also hearing, smelling, and touch. And now imagine that you spend a lot of time in this virtual reality. Imagine that at some point you spend so much time there that you sort of get lost in it. You start to forget the actual world you were in when you put on this headset. Because this virtual reality was so believable, you actually started to think and feel that this virtual body was your real body. You completely identify with it. But nevertheless, at some point, you become unhappy in this virtual world. You realize that there is something wrong. You're overlooking something essential about yourself. There's this clue in the back of your mind that something is off here. And then imagine, within this virtual reality, a character approaches you and suggests to you that You're actually not this body you see in front of you. Your reality is not here. Your reality exists somewhere else. There's something essential about yourself. You're overlooking it. So this virtual character that we meet, in a sense, tries to give us a pointing out instruction. This character wants to show us that we are actually not this virtual body. And now we come to the crucial part. What would it require for this illusion of being in this virtual reality to dissolve, to disappear? It would require the person that is actually wearing the headset to take it off. If the real person who is wearing the headset would take it off, he would instantaneously realize that his real body and this real world he is in is something completely different. And the problem that this person who is lost in the virtual reality runs into is that as a virtual character, it can never do this. It is impossible for this fake character in the virtual world to realize what it really is. Why? Because it is not real. The crucial part here, which I'm pointing to, is that this imaginary virtual character in the virtual world doesn't have the power to remove the headset. No matter how hard this virtual character tries to realize what it really is, it can't do so. It doesn't matter what it does, how hard it practices, how good its understanding is. Everything it does is in a sense futile, because the virtual character can't remove the headset. So if this character we meet in the virtual world delivers a good pointing out instruction, he wouldn't deliver the instruction to the virtual character. He would do something else. He would say that not you as the virtual character, but you as the real person who is wearing the headset, you need to remove this headset. The correct pointing out instruction, therefore, doesn't have the wrong assumption that the virtual character can do anything to become the real character. A really potent pointing out instruction makes clear that only the real character can realize its reality. So a great pointing out instruction would actually address the real person and instruct this real person to remove the headset. So let's apply this rather long analogy to non-duality pointing out instructions. Using this analogy and applying it to our world, we recognize that the person who is wearing the headset is our true nature, is unlimited being, the absolute. Here, in our very real case, true nature seems to become identified with this body-mind. And as this analogy showed us, if a non-duality pointing out instruction is delivered not to true nature, but to the body-mind, the body-mind will not be able to follow it. No matter how much the body-mind tries, it will never become true nature in of itself. It is a completely wrong starting assumption to think that you as a person will one day become enlightened, will one day become this crystal clear openness of your real being. The crucial part is that you already are this real being. You don't have to become it. You already are this. So when you hear a pointing out instruction, don't assume that you as a person are hearing the instruction and now have to follow it. Not at all. You already are your true nature, perfectly established as this. The pointing out instruction doesn't turn you from a person into your true nature. No, what it does is that it lets the fixation that created this illusion of being a separate self in the first place dissolve. When this fixation disappears, our true nature is recognized spontaneously. It is seen that we already are this. We cannot be anything else. So when you're following a non-duality pointing out instruction, understand that you already are this. You already are this absolute perfection. And the instruction only serves to point you to that which is already true about yourself. It lets that which seemed to create the illusion of being anything else crumble away and fade. So realize that you are already there, and any pointing only points you to that which you already are. I hope you found this exploration of pointing out instructions interesting. Let me know in the comments if you have struggled with these sort of instructions previously. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support my work, check out the links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with my latest videos. Thank you for watching, and I will see you right here next time.